Horizon Chance Reacts, and this is, are cows OP by the child TierZoo? Yeah, they are. They definitely are. After reacting to so many TierZoo video, I know what his criteria is to consider something OP. And knowing how many cows exist in the world, yeah, they are gonna be OP, right? Because the number is ridiculous, right? I think number even drops one time how many horses there were, right? Because when there were no cars around, horses were the dominating animals, right? Because we bred them left and right, while cows are now the thing, right? Because people eat cows apparently. They're dairy, obviously. I mean, but this wouldn't exist, right? Without dairy, that's what I'm sure. Because I'm a vegetarian, so all my protein comes from milk-related things. So yeah, cows are OP, cows are essential. But yeah, for those of you disappointed in the lack of mention of gore, this is fair criticism. I hope to make future video about the gore, but we couldn't find enough good gore clips in time to launch this video. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, gore is literally the biggest and dominating cattle in the world, if I remember correctly. It's an Indian, it's not, I think it's not related to bison, if I remember correctly, right? It's a cattle, right? But it's even bigger than the buffalo. Water buffalo, African water buffalo is much bigger than twice the size or something. I think gore's what, 400, 500 kilos, so like 1,000 pounds. They're that big, right? But they are usually not aggressive. But obviously, when they get aggressive, you're fucked, right? You can find a million clips about that, right? On some website, I'm pretty sure. Mostly going to be Indian because gore, I think, is Indian, right? I'm pretty sure they are only in India, not anywhere else. I don't know. But yeah, let's do this one. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't subscribe. So I know which type of videos to react to more. You know, like any animal type of video, like I already do casual geographic, TierZoo. So if you know any other channel, definitely comment down. And I just, you know, disclaimer, I just do this for fun, right? I don't do this professionally, right? I'm a construction engineer, basically, civil construction. I build, you know, different factories and shit. This is not my professional thing. So if someone there don't want me to react to their videos like TierZoo, contact me on my email that is on description, or comment down this video and I'll stop reacting to it. So yeah, that's what it. Damn.
Cows are one of the most popular builds in the game, and normally a high population is a good indicator that a build is pretty powerful in the current meta. However, I think in the case of cattle, there are a lot of other factors which make their true power level a bit less obvious. Are cattle low-tier builds that are simply propped up by human activity? Or are they a genuinely powerful high tier that would dominate with or without human help? Let's delve into their stats and abilities to find out. Cattle are part of a powerful faction of builds called bovines, which also includes the bison, Cape buffalo, water buffalo, and historically the auroch. While there are a few differences between them, which we'll discuss in a tier list at the end of the video, they all share a few common traits. Bovines have an exceptionally high HP stat. It takes a lot of damage to bring them down, pretty much requiring team strats from multiple predator players at once. And unlike some other high HP builds, bovines don't just sit there eating the damage. No, they can strike back with incredible force. Their sharp, sturdy horns can inflict massive damage on anything unlucky enough to be caught in their path.
Look at all the water.
And unlike antlers, which fall off and need to be regrown each year, the horns cattle have, they have year-round, always ready to wreck someone's plan of attack. Their mobility stat is kinda mid, definitely not high enough to reliably escape a predator, and their intelligence and stealth are both below average for a mammal. However, neither of these stats are all that integral to the bovine build's main strategy. While lower intelligence does create a potentially exploitable vulnerability to things like traps, and lower their resistance to distractions and intimidation tactics, it's not so low that bovines aren't able to utilize team combos. Quite the contrary, in fact. The herd defense tactics employed by a competent herd of cattle makes them borderline impossible to defeat in a group. And since they have such a high HP stat, this gives cows' teammates a lot of time to regroup and launch a counterattack if one of their herd members goes down and needs a save. Next, we should discuss their unique abilities and their signature combat moves.
Yeah, see, in India, cows, let's just say I don't have that rosy view of them on the roads. Obviously I take my bike, a 1000cc bike, and every time I put a custom exhaust on it, a Krapovic. So whenever I go by, cows only, what the fuck, it starts to chase after me, right? And in India is weird, right? In India, you can now, if you see the roads that are highways and shit, they are really good compared to 10 years ago, right? But at the same time, sometimes even in the cities, you can just come across some cows walking around like, what the fuck? Then you hear all this news where one cow went berserk and hit some motorcycles and this and that. Somebody got hurt. So every time I go out, I'm always afraid of cows. Like, what the fuck, right? And in India, cows are just in this weird place where they are considered holy, right? And also they are cattle, so sometimes they just walk around, and I don't know. Government's not going to do much about it because they're considered holy. Some groups would get pissed off if they try to remove it from the roads and whatever. India is in very weird place because of that, right? So I'm always afraid of cows whenever they're on the road, whenever I'm on a bike or something.
Bovines all have the ruminant ability, which enables them to gain XP and level up all just from eating grass. This might seem like a boring ability, but its usefulness is actually hard to overstate. Having this perk essentially means that one of the most abundant plants in the game becomes your main source of XP, completely removing the need to search and forage for food. This means a player doesn't need to invest evolution points into things like climbing, digging, keen eyesight, or intelligence to be able to find food, and can reinvest those points into other stats, which is how cattle are able to support such a high base stat total. Cattle also push
wait a minute, that was gore, wasn't it?
Signature move, lactation, to its limits. Cow milk is one of the most nutritious substances in the game, and allows new cattle players to level up extremely quickly. This helps keep their offspring safe, as it means they spend less time in the more vulnerable low weight class, and quickly reach a size where hardly anything could realistically take them down alone. The cattle's signature move
is just playing, let's be honest.
An extremely powerful head bash attack that deals heavy damage and inflicts incredible knockback, forcing the target back a good distance and also likely knocking the target prone, which allows for easy follow-up attacks. Their sharp hooves deal extra damage to prone enemies, so this straightforward combo can be devastating if it catches an opponent off guard. That is about it.
I'm gonna let those Cape Buffalo, what are there, right? That go in Africa server that goes after lions. Every time I see that, it's just ridiculous because since the start we had this like a feeling like lions, like holy shit, this is the top of the top predator. Then you see 2-3 lions literally clinging on as the buffalo just runs away, right, and just attacks it and just like look at the buffalo stunned and runs away. Seeing lion that happen to lion is just ridiculous. I love that.
When it comes to the cow's main combat moves. Cows can kick as well, but it's more of a stomp than anything. They don't have the flexibility or power to headshot someone like a horse can. They also cannot deal damage with their bite, since they don't have upper teeth. Not a super big deal, but biting is a powerful option to have in a pinch, so it's at least worth mentioning. Now let's get into the cattle's weaknesses and counterplay. So due to the cattle's low intelligence stat, its resistance to mental status conditions like intimidation, distraction, or trickery is reduced. Intimidation is a pretty common tactic employed by a variety of different builds, from predators to omnivores to herbivores. Intimidation is one of the most effective tactics against cattle, and can often result in a cow losing a battle that it very easily could have won if it had not been scared away.
What the fuck?
Conversely, if a cow does
Cat
decide
is
to take the
ridiculous.
offensive, distractions can easily
Seriously, what the fuck? This is too good, man.
result.
Cat is literally, look at how much balls that cat has, right? It's just doing this and just cows just jumps.
In a cow losing a battle that it very easily could have won if it had not been scared
Damn,
away.
look at that.
And conversely, if a cow does decide to take the offensive, distractions can easily divert the attack, causing it to completely miss. While this is, of course, extremely risky,
Damn, look at that.
overcommitting to an attack and whiffing can oftentimes mean the difference between decisive victory and crushing defeat. Advanced players will even be able to utilize a combination of intimidation and distraction to kite cattle in specific directions, enabling them to control entire herds, which is what has allowed human mains to capture huge numbers of cattle. Cattle are known for their goring rush attack, which, while powerful, is imperfect. Many builds put a ton of points into the ability Concussive Force Resistance, enabling them to throw out
Put them in
headbutt
NBA,
attacks
I
without
guess.
much risk. Cows have some blunt force resistance, but not enough that headbutts and charging attacks are without risk. In fact, at high speed, cattle can easily take lethal damage
This is
in a
just
single hit
stupid.
if they strike another player at full force with their charging attack. builds like the goat or bighorn sheep can easily best a cow in 1v1 combat, even though the cow's stats are much higher in a vacuum. Builds with forward-facing.
Seriously, man, every time I see those Spanish videos where there is this kind of event where everybody just runs away, a cattle runs behind them, buffalo, whatever that was, right? Bull, buffalo, whatever. I don't know what they use, but it's bull probably, right? So bull rushes behind them and they just basically runs. Like, just one stomp is enough to fuck you up, right? One wrong hit to your brain or whatever, and you're completely screwed forever. This is ridiculous every time I see it. Like, why would you do this? I get it, the rush and thrill of it or whatever. Then take up skydiving or something. I don't know. This is just fucked up, man. Every time cows are on this, sometimes people just get run over.
Horns can also present quite a challenge to bovine builds, as bovine horns tend to face to the side and are more used for swiping and slashing at opponents than for stabbing forward. This means that in a direct confrontation, sharp antlers can deal a lot of damage to a bovine player while keeping them out of reach of connecting with their own horn attacks. There aren't enough different bovines for a proper full-length tier list video, but I think I can do a quick rapid-fire ranking to close out this video.
F, small cow. B, medium cow.
Definitely not a bad build, but one with a lot of weaknesses that high tier builds can exploit. Their main advantage over the other, more wild cattle variants is that due to selective breeding by humans, the domestic cattle are actually the best in the game at milk production, and therefore their offspring level up and reach larger sizes much quicker. Definitely a much more beginner-friendly build, although at the end of your playthrough there's a good chance a human will eliminate you. Also in B tier we have the yak, a mountainous variant.
Alright, seriously, the way TierZoo has listed in the past, like any domesticated animals, he put that in front of it because humans literally domesticated them and they are surviving because of that. So that makes them somewhat OP. So he has put that like A or even S tier sometime. So shouldn't the cows be at the same level because we are hurting them? There's so many of them. Like the number is ridiculous, right? I mean, if you weigh them up, that's just, I don't know which video was that, but just talk about how many cows are there, right? So doesn't that automatically make them A? I guess, we also slaughter them, so you can't really say an S tier, but wouldn't that make them A tier at least? I get it, they're no more damaging, but I don't know, they're useful, so doesn't that automatically make them so OP? I don't know.
Of the cattle that opted for slightly lower base stats in exchange for better resistance to the cold and better mobility on icy or rocky terrain. Same basic weaknesses as the common cattle, but its ability to survive the cold Himalayan mountains means that it has less natural enemies to contend with than cattle in less hostile climates do. At the bottom of A tier we have the bison. The bison are the largest bovine builds and traded some of their power stats for extra health and defense. As a result, they have shorter horns and lots of padded fur on their head, meaning that they can tank a lot more damage, but also can't deal as much damage using Goring Rush. This can be a bit of a problem, as being able to one-hit a wolf would really help discourage.
Yeah, that video, the best thing about that was that even after that kind of a charging, and the buffalo literally got airtime there, buffalo still landed on its feet. Like that's, holy shit, that's more agile than most human right there. Seeing their size, you wouldn't think that, but there you go.
Discourage aggressive teams of wolves from attacking them. Since they can't get a one-hit kill without a crit, some wolves get pretty brazen in their attacks on bison. Still, they're tied with the moose as the premier tank of the North America server, and have favorable matchups against the grizzly bear. So still definitely a solid high tier. Next in A tier we have the water buffalo, a bovine build with roughly equivalent stats to the common cattle, but with higher offensive stats and massive horns. They get a mobility bonus in shallow water, which, while not that busted of an ability, is still pretty nice to have. Water buffalo have to be able to fight off one of the most powerful solitary predator builds in the game, the Bengal tiger.
What?
Anything that can take on this thing has to be at least A tier. The human player base in the—
Wait a minute, one-on-one? Bengal tiger just got... How'd that happen, man? I mean, Bengal tiger is really strong. I mean, it's ridiculously strong. Its one swipe is like, what, twice as more power than lion's swipe would be, right? Claw swipe. I mean, pound for pound tiger is really, really strong. I mean, I don't know which video was that, but I saw a video about a really big Bengal tiger, literally, just swiping his hand, and, the wall wasn't that strong, but still was a brick wall and breaking that. Like, how strong would that be? It's ridiculous. A water buffalo actually taking it out, but that's surprising.
The India server is also notably less aggressive towards bovine players, which makes them a lot more viable in that meta. But when it comes to hostile metagames, nothing compares to Africa. And despite the abundance of
Difficulty
extremely
level
powerful
legendary.
predators like the lion and hyena, and territorial giants like the rhino and elephant, the Cape Buffalo is still notorious for being one of the most dangerous builds in the game. It's one of
Yeah, Cape Buffalo. I always mix up water buffalo and Cape Buffalo, right? In one of the TierZoo video, I also said, no, it's Cape Buffalo, right? The one that goes after lions, right? In horde. Those are just ridiculous.
Because Big 5, a status given to builds which are notoriously difficult for humans to defeat 1v1. And so I think for this reason, the African Cape Buffalo ranks first among the bovine builds. But it still doesn't quite crack S tier. Mostly
Who's
because
S tier?
it's overshadowed by the wildebeest in the African savanna meta. The wildebeest, which is not a type of cattle or buffalo, but rather is essentially an antelope with higher stats, may not be as bulky as the Cape Buffalo, but it does have a much higher base speed stat. And this speed is pretty
Look at that, it
crucial
looks
for being
like a
able to
horse or
receive
something.
an ambush from Africa's predator builds, and for punishing opponents who don't respect the wildebeest's range, leading to the wildebeest being vastly more successful than the Cape Buffalo.
Look at how agile it
This
is.
level of supreme optimization is what it takes to crack S tier in the African server. Now, this doesn't mean cattle will never be S tier. In fact, I think there's a pretty strong argument to be made that prior to humans unlocking the gunpowder technology on the tech tree, bison were the undisputed S tier of North America. And although they were all but annihilated from the server, their numbers are slowly but surely returning to healthy levels. It's quite an inspiring story, which you can check out right now on CuriosityStream.
Yeah, I understand why people will be pissed off, because if gore was in this list, it would definitely be S tier, right? But I think it's mostly in India, so that's why probably wouldn't put it on S tier, because it's like you have to be in Africa if you want to really test your whatever. I don't know, gore is really big, right? It's like twice as big as buffalo or something, right? And bison, it's like 1,000 pounds. It's really bulky. But, you know, like he said, in India, it's cattle is mostly like, it's also a religious symbol, right? People respect it. Not as Family Guy level, where people literally, or who was that? Somebody, some comedian said that. Like the cow was just standing on the road and people were just standing by doing nothing on the road, stopping cars and nothing. No, people are not that, not that considerate, right? People just honk their horns, get angry, and remove the cow from the road, like get out of here or something like that. Yeah, people are not that considerate here. But yeah, cows are, like I said, right? Cows are really important, right? Because most of my bulk comes from cows and milk. I'm a vegetarian. There is no other protein source. It's only dairy, right? I don't know how vegans gets muscular, because vegans can't eat milk as well, right? So where your protein comes from? Although vegetarian like beans and shit, those are not efficient protein, right? Like dairy milks are like 90% plus, while other like beans and shit is like 60% or something. So you don't utilize all of that protein. So and in India, like I said, cows, I'm kind of terrified, right? Yeah, especially if you have anything loud, right? When I had a Harley, I sold it, right? Even that was loud, but it was too loud. So I'm like, okay, for now I'm going to sell this. And then I bought Ninjas ZX-10R and put on the exhaust there, thinking it will bring me more performance. Didn't know how loud it would get. It's extremely loud. And all the cows and whatever, I don't know why, they just sit and just chase after me, for fuck's sake. So I have to really look on the road. Like if I'm not on a highway, if I'm going through the street, I have to like, is there any cow around? Otherwise I have to just be close to the 1000 revs or something, slowly going away. Otherwise I'm fucked. Well, that was our cows OP. I think so, right? But yeah, this was a good video. He should have added gore in this list, but I guess he forgot. He's gonna make a dedicated video about that apparently. Okay. Right, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.